Close the doors of your mind, close the gates of your mind, close the gates of your palace, your ba'ith, your ahal, your tent, your mishkan, your mikdash, your temple, your body, your sentient self and your sentient mind, and your 12 cranial nerves and your 12 million sinners. Within your yard and your calf that allow you to do things that are righteous and good deeds, and your yard and your calf that allows you to do evil and wrong. Your regal and your mind and your thoughts, even the hairs of your head, that even attaches to everything, all living things that can even discern ruachs and spirits that pass by your mind. And bring your mind to balance within yourself. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day of warning. Today is the day that Yahuwah has given to us as another shabath, that we may cease from our works and our own selfish self, that we may shabath from who we are and what we claim who we are and what we desire that we should be. That we may sit in his courts, for a day in his courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. But today we acknowledge the one who made all the har of the earth, all of the nahar of the earth, all the rivers and streams and all the creatures of the earth. The one who formed all of the forests and the rivers and the streams that man gets to see and understand that they may be without excuse. The one who formed and shaped all the rivers and streams under the earth and the wells and all the things that man digs to try to satisfy their thirst. But even now, all these things, as we see on the earth, are being destroyed. Because man, in their selfish self, in their greed, will destroy everything. Why? Because of their greed, extreme greed, and their own selfish ways. That's why the Shabbat was made, that man should be reminded of who they are, and man should be reminded of how they should understand why Yahuwah placed us here. So as we move forward in the fear of the one who made all things, Yahuwah himself. Without fear of him, then one will not understand what it's like to not commit sin ever in their life. Right, so we're going to the book of Proverbs, mostly Proverbs chapter 13 in verse 1. Mostly Proverbs chapter 13, mostly Proverbs chapter 13 in verse 1. It says, a wise son hears his father's instructions. Why? If you hear your Abba's instructions, then guess what? Your right ear is in tune. Why? Because you need your right ear. Right? And it says, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. Why? Because your ears are closed. It's just like a disobedient son in a mother and father's house, or daughter. They refuse to hear tukah. They refuse to hear rebuke of their mother and their father. Why? Because they don't want to hear it. Right? It says, from the fruit of his mouth, a man eats what is good, right? So that's from the fruit of his mouth, man eats what is good. Why? Because that's what you say out of your mouth. That's what a woman, Isha, says out of her mouth. He said, you eat. From the fruit of his mouth, a man eats what is good. That's what you eat. So if you say evil things out of your mouth and you consider that good within yourself, then guess what? That's what you're going to eat continually. But if you say something opposite of how you say, if it continues to be evil, then guess what? How great is that darkness, and how evil is your eye, right? But it says, but the desire of the treacherous is for violence. Why? Kamas. Why is it? The desire of the treacherous is always going to be for violence. This is Bereshit Genesis chapter 6. Bereshit Genesis chapter 6 and verse 1. Bereshit Genesis chapter 6 verse 5. Bereshit Genesis chapter 6 and verse 5. Yahuwah saw that the wickedness of man, Adam, was great in the earth. Why? The wickedness. Why? Because they don't listen to their father's instructions. So he considers you wicked. Why? And every intention of the thoughts of his heart was evil continually, was raw continually, which means you're going to eat from the good of your mouth. Everything you speak is evil, is raw. And Yahuwah regretted that he had made Adam on the earth. And it grieves into his heart, right? You see how the earth is being treated today. You see how the people are being treated today. You see how man, Adam, is now living on the earth today. So therefore, male and female, Yahuwah is upset with you. For he's angry with the wicked every single day. Right? And it ain't gonna stop. So Yahuwah said, I will blot out Adam, whom I created from the face of the land. So do you want to get blotted out? You want to get sent to the spirit world? That's who Yahuwah going to send you. He said, what? I'm going to blot you out and send you to the spirit world, because there's another world outside of this world. And guess what it says? So Yahuwah said, I will blot out Adam, whom I created from the face of the land. Man, that's Adam. Animals, that's both male and female. Animals and creeping things and birds of the Shamayim. For I am sorry that I have made them. Because he that made us and not we ourselves. We didn't make anything. So he said, I'm sorry that I even made a covenant with you, a bereath. I'm sorry I even put the responsibility in your hands. I'm sorry that I thought you was a good manager. I thought y'all were all good managers of the things that I gave you. I thought y'all were good shepherds, good ra'ah, good nakud. I thought y'all were good farmers. I thought you all were good at that. But if for some reason it looks like you guys are not. You can't even manage a household. You can't even manage children. You can't even manage a wife. You can't even manage finances. You can't even do anything. I thought you all were good at it. But he said, no, it's called I pretend. You know how you go to the qualifications and you try. He said when I did locums tenens, and I did. How you say you start recruiting certain RNs, LNs, LPNs. You start recruiting. He say surgeons and doctors. Guess what? Everybody try to hide their malpractice cases because they don't want nobody to know that they trying to get hired for another job to get a high-paying job in a manager role, knowing good and well they still have those cases that have not been resolved in their life. And that's the very same thing when it comes to male and female in this life. You have cases in your life that have not been resolved, and then guess what people want to do? They want to jump in the managerial role of a household and a family and finance and a farming and shepherd and a pastor and a teacher and all these things that people desire in this life because they want to feel like they're spiritual. But in actuality, these things have been neglected. And you've now been placed in roles, and now you've got even more malpractice because you never got the other ones resolved and you never learned your lesson. So therefore, now the earth is paying for it. An innocent earth that Yahuwah made is paying for the very things that you people neglected. And you say, why is he talking like this? So Yahuwah saying, I will blot out Adam, whom I have created on the face of the land, man, animals, and creeping things, and birds of the Shamaim, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Nuach found favor in the eyes of Yahuwah. And now he said, I found somebody who ain't got no malpractice cases. I found somebody who's actually a good farmer, who actually knows how to manage a family. Matter of fact, he has animals and things, he knows how to do these things. Matter of fact, he listens to my voice. Any instructions that I give him, he does exactly what I say. Verse 9, these are the generations of Nuach, right? You say, okay, I like Nuach. Nuach was a righteous man, Sadiq, blameless in his generation. He was blameless. Blameless as when I told him to do something, he does it. They say, oh, he never had any struggles in his life or any things he ever had to deal with and anything in his flesh. Yeah, he had the same thing Yahusha did. But for some reason, he found a way to bring those things, put those things aside and continue to listen to Yahuwah's voice and say, hey, you know what? I'll do that. And Nuach walked with Elohim. Why? That's the only way you're going to walk with him. How are you going to walk with Elohim if you're not in agreement with him? If you don't listen to your father's voice? And Nuach had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So he had all these things. He had 3 sons, which means he had Nishah and he had 3 sons. And guess what? Now the earth was corrupt in Elohim's sight. So that's what you think Yahuwah looking at today. This great world where people are loving and kind and doing all these things. And no, he's looking at the world today, and it's the same world that I was in the days of Nuach. It's the same world. It's no different. The world hasn't changed. The system hasn't changed. It just got more advanced. More advanced and more complex. But it's the same system, same world, same paperwork, same thing, same ways to travel. You can't travel without paperwork. It's the same world that was there in Babylon, the Nimrud. It's the same world today. Same world today. No different. And if nobody's passed you down the information on how to move in this earth from the time when Nimrud came here and passed it to your family all the way to today, guess what? You are so behind, you don't know anything. And guess what? You are being taken advantage of at this moment. Matter of fact, at this minute, at this second, at this millisecond, at 0.00003 seconds. You don't even know what to do. Matter of fact, you're taking advantage of right now. Matter of fact, somebody's stealing money out of your bank account right now. You don't even know it. And he took out 3 cents as I'm talking to you. You're being swindled. You got another fee, $10 taken out of your account. You're getting debited every day. So, now the earth was corrupt in Yahuwah's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. That's what we just read in Proverbs 13. Their whole mind is just full of violence, kamas. And Elohim saw the earth, behold, it was corrupt. So if your mind is like that, you don't listen to your father's voice, and you have all that evil raw coming out of your mouth, you think it's good. And then you have violence, and guess what? You're corrupt. You're a corrupt individual. Literally. In 2026 AD, you are a corrupt individual. And guess what? For all flesh had corrupted their way on the Yadatz. Why? Because he said, you don't corrupt, all flesh has corrupted their way. And guess what? And Elohim said to Noah, I have determined to make an end of all flesh. Why? I have to. All the works of the flesh are evil. And if you got the works of the flesh, I assure you, you're corrupt and you're evil. And you need to bring it in subjection right now. For today is a day of salvation. Right? And it says, and Elohim said to Noah, I have determined to make an end of all basar, all flesh. For the Yadatz is filled with violence through them. We mean violence, kamas, that's damage, unjust gain. Violence. You know what violence is? Destruction, jealousy, envy, strife. It's full of it. Taking things from things that don't belong to you, right? But it's through them. What do you mean through them? I thought he's talking about Noah. He said he's talking to Noah. The world is full of violence through them. What do you mean through them? Anybody that does not obey Yahuwah's voice and the voice of your father, he says you are corrupt and you are responsible for the community of the earth and how violent and evil it is. Right? Behold, I will destroy them from the Yadatz. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. He said, go make your own little escape device. He said, go do that. Going back to Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 1. Going back. Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 2. For the fruit of a man's mouth eats what is good, but the desire of the treacherous is for violence. That's all it is. You treacherous. Whosoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He said, why would Shlomo write that? He was David's son who came out the lineage of Bathsheba, whom he committed adultery with. Then his son died, he repented, he took him as a child, and he birthed Shlomo. Why would Shlomo write that? He said, he that keeps his mouth, you keep, sir. He said what? He that guards his mouth preserves his life. Now you see why Noah. He said, why how did Noah found favor with Yahuwah? Yahuwah was a righteous man, blameless in all his ways. And Yahuwah preserved his life because he knew how to speak. He said, he guarded his tongue. He's like, and guess what? He who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. Why do you think he didn't let Noah come to ruin? But he let the whole rest of the world do. He said, I'm going to let the rest of the world go to ruin. But you, Noah, I'm going to preserve you because you guard your lips. You say, we watch for your language. You know how your parents say, watch your language now. Watch your lashon, right? Because you got to watch these words you be saying out of your mouth. Because these people put spells in them. Or you be thinking you saying a word, but actually you know you saying a spell on somebody. You casting a spell. You doing things from Disney Channel, right? Mary Poppins, right? Matter of fact, you popping all over the place. You flying on an umbrella, flying in the sky, right? Like the penguin, and you look like a penguin, like Kirby, right? Falling around, right? And he said you fat too, because he look fat, right? You're looking like a penguin. But it says, the soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing. How long are you gonna be sluggish? He said you can crave all you want. You know how you want some food. They see what they do is they make you sluggish. They put all these things in the face. They put fast food everywhere. You know why? You know what fast food make you do? Make you be sluggish. Because you know when you ain't sluggish, when you gotta actually work for your food, that means you gotta go plant it, grab it, cook it, clean it, prepare it, serve it, wash dishes, then do it again the next day, right? I don't feel like doing that. You know what that does? That make you sluggish. It make you not urgent to survive. So therefore, I'll give you something fast. You want something fast? Man, it'd be real quick. The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. That's why the sluggards are not eating non-nutritious food. And the people who are what? Diligent are eating rich food. Richly nutrient food, because they actually take some actual time out to actually prepare it. But sluggards only want that fast stuff. Because you know, when you really gotta cook something, you gotta like, man, I gotta do this and this and that. I gotta wash it, I gotta make sure it's all, I gotta put this on, put the seasoning on, I gotta make sure all things, I gotta cut, I gotta do all these things, I gotta do all this work. Why? Because then, you know what all that work does? This is why the sluggard mind is one way and a non-sluggard mind is another way, right? It's not rocket science. The righteous hates falsehood, right? That's what the righteous do. But the wicked bring shame and disgrace. That's what they do. Every imagination and thought is evil continued. He said, I can't. He said, your makashaba, your yetzer, your imaginations, and you bring nothing but violence out of your heart and your mind. Right? Verse 6, last thing. Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless. That's the only thing. You got to surround yourself with it. You got to surround yourself with it. On your cell phone, in your car, in your music you listen to, in the things you thought, and how you think, in your words you speak. Sadaka got to be everything. You got to be when you walk, by the way, when you lie down, you rise up, when you take your shoe off and put it on the ground, you got to be thinking on the bar. You got to have everything the bar, word. Why? It guards your whole way. It guards him whose way is blameless, but sin overthrows the wicked. It will. It's just going to overthrow you. It's going to take you off your throne. It's going to take you off your, it's going to take you out of your position. You ain't going to be no Malcolm no more. You ain't going to be no Malak no more. Right? It's going to take you off of your wealth. It's going to take you out of your thought process of what you need to be. That's what it's going to do. It's going to overthrow you. It's just like a kingdom being overthrown. Your whole kingdom is going to be overthrown because of wickedness, right? And these are all a part of it. We're verse 7, let's go there. One pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. You say, you know how people be flossing? You know how they say, yeah, all that money, right, look good, but in actuality, you don't have nothing. Because you ain't got rich food. You ain't got nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. He said, man, he got a lot of wealth. Why? If you pretend to be poor, you got a lot of wealth. You know why? You know how you know you got a lot of wealth? Because it doesn't control you. It doesn't control you. People who got a lot of wealth and they try to show it off, it's controlling them. It controls you. But if you pretend to be poor, guess what? It don't control you. Then you won't have no violence in your heart and your mind. Because you know what? When riches control you, you're gonna want more and more and more. Then you're going to be trying to overthrow people. You're going to want more and more and more until there ain't nothing else for nobody else. Then after that, you know what you're going to want? After you get everything in the world, you know what you're going to want? I want your life. I want your soul, right? And that's what it's going to be. That's how it operates. First you take everything. I want more. There's nothing else to take. Souls. Right? Then you want that. I want your mind. Right? And then that takes over. Then guess what? What is after that? I want Elohim Yahuwah. I want to take him down. Right? then that's it. That's about as far as you go. Right? You say you don't cross the line. Right? But that's how it works, though. That's how it starts. That's why you got to pretend to be poor. You better pretend to be poor your whole life, or you're going to find yourself in Yahuwah's face thinking you could take him down. And that's going to be a problem on that day. Right? Let's get to that point. One pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Yet another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. The ransom of a man's life is his wealth. But a poor man's hears no threat, right? So that's all a part of it, right? So why we went there. Right, so this is the book of Ecclesiastes, Qahalath 7, 19 through 11. Ecclesiastes, Qahalath 7, 19 through 21. 19 through 21. It says, wisdom gives strength to the wise more than 10 rulers who are in the city. He say more than 10. He say to the wise more than 10. That's 11. Right? People say, why? Surely there is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins. He say, surely that. Right? There is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins. He said, surely there is not. Right? Verse 21, do not take heart all the things that people say, right? Because some people take it to heart, right? Because you got to understand, you have both evil and good inside of you. You got the gates of hell on the inside of you, just like the earth got Sheol on the inside of you, and then you got Yahuwah on the innermost part. But then another part of you is the gates of Sheol, and that gates of Sheol will overthrow you. Just like we just talked about, it will overthrow you. Because wickedness overthrows righteousness. It will overthrow you. That's all it's going to do. It's going to rise up out of the gates, out of the kingdom, and then rise up in you, and it's going to take over and overthrow you. Right? But it says, do not take heart all the things people say. People say a lot of stuff. People ain't got control, right? Lest you hear your servant cursing you. So who is he talking about? He's talking about people who are over, who have a kingdom. A Malak, Malka. What? Servants, men servants, children. Actually, it's children, men servants, maid servants, right? They're going to say things. You say, don't take to heart what people say. Because, when you're high up, when you in that position, you know what happens. When somebody say, people at the Lord, they can be like, I'm going to sue you. You be like, man, goodness. And sometimes it's just out of what? It's out of the fact that, hey, you're violating my privacy. Leave me alone, right? Sometimes it's just threats to say, hey, this is how far it's got, right? But it says, lest you hear your servant cursing you. He said, man, you'll be cursing me. And then he says, but guess what he says? Your heart knows that many times you yourself have cursed others. He said, man, you're going to hear somebody cursing you. You're like, man, that man just cursed me. But then also you need to realize there is nobody on earth who never sins, right? And you need to remember your sin, right? When somebody curses you. That's the whole point. When somebody curses you, you need to remember your sin. Because then when you remember your sin, then you be like, okay, we are flesh. We are only flesh. And you have to realize that, or you're not going to make it. It's going to be a hard life. You have to. Right? Your heart knows that how many times you yourself have cursed others. So what do you mean by that? That word for cursing is Qahalath. It's Qahalath. It means to be trifling. He said, I know sometimes that's what the word means. It means to be trifling. He says, it's times in your life that you've been trifling to people too. And people say, I ain't never been trifling. I said, nah, you need to stop. You need to examine yourself a little bit more, and you'll find your trifling ways in your life. To be of little account, that means they make you feel of little account, like you ain't nothing. Right? Tell me you ain't never did that in your life, try to make somebody feel like they ain't nothing. I play sports. Right? But it says right here, it says to be abated. That means to be diminished. It also means to appear trifling, to be trifling, to be insignificant. How many times you curse people and try to make them feel insignificant? How many times? Lightly esteemed. How many times have you made somebody feel lightly esteemed, like they ain't nobody, like they ain't nothing? Right? To treat with contempt. Oh, how many times have you treated people in contempt? You're in the contempt of court. Right? Say what? Somebody said something, somebody did, and they said, you in contempt of court. You try to make it seem like what they said ain't nothing. He's like, they did this to me. He's like, hold on, you just gonna make me feel like I ain't nothing? I'm in contempt, like it ain't happened to me? Right? To bring into contempt, to dishonor. How many times you dishonored somebody in this life? Right? It also means to be swift, to make small, right? To be trifling, right? Light thing, to make them lighter, right? Accursed, abated. Because all these that word abated is key, right? Why? How many times? That word abated means something perceived as hostile. So you made the person feel like they hostile, but then you forget about all the things you did to other people that were hostile. To be threatening or negative. You know how that's a new thing now. Negative. I don't want nobody being negative to me. Negative, right? No negative energy, right? Negative energy is out of my way. No more negative energy. But then you forget about all the times that you were negative to other people. You forget about that. People say, have you really examined yourself of your negative energy? Because your negative energy go a lot deeper than what you think. Has the gates of Sheol, hell, been closed inside of you? Because that negative energy is inside of there. And if you don't control it, that negative energy gonna come out. And it's gonna come out, man, it's gonna be so dark you can touch it. Right? And sometimes that darkness can look like light, because darkness can be light. But then they say it can look like light, but it ain't light. But also means to become less intense or widespread, to lessen, reduce, or remove, especially a nuisance. Right? This is why this is important, right? So this is Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 34, 4-7. And Yahuwah said to him, this is the land of which I swore to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov. Right, that's an inheritance. It's something that's passed down. Yahuwah is the actual grantor, right? I grant you the land. And then he has Abraham, who is the first trustee. Then Yitzhak is the co-trustee if something happened to Abraham. And then Yaakov is the other co-trustee if something happened to Yitzhak. He said, I'm making sure it passed down to you. Right? But then it says, I will give it to your offspring. And then your descendants are your beneficiaries if something happens to all three of them. So technically it belongs to the beneficiaries, the original beneficiaries of the land. But somebody stole it and gave it an estate and charged us an estate tax, and we don't even live on it. And it's still valuable today. And they charge you a estate tax because they like to charge interest on everything you have and take it and tax the heck out of you, and then they kick you out of the estate that it's so valuable it can pay all the taxes 1,000 times over, and they don't even want you to have it. How do you think that's going to make the beneficiaries feel that there is an inheritance for them and they can't even have it? How do you think they're going to make you feel? See, some people ain't never been in this situation, and this is why they keep you from this situation. Because if you find out about these attributes of a inheritance, then you're going to be thinking, I guess there's an inheritance for me, and I never received it, and I want it because it's going to make my life better, right? But then they have Dr. Evil, right, who doesn't want it to be yours, right? Because they want to incite you to keep disobeying Yahuwah. That's the only reason, right? And people say, why do they do all of this? Because it's a plot and a scheme. Guess what? I have let you see with your eyes, but you shall not go over there, right? He said, you ain't going over there, right? Even though he was one of the beneficiaries of a inheritance, he says, you're not going. Why? Because he did not do what Yahuwah said. He's like, nah, that's about as far as you go, right? But guess what? So Mashar So Mashah, the servant of Yahuwah, died in the land of Moab. So we talk about Yahuwah Mashiach. He talks about his servants, the ones who are put as managers. We're supposed to be managers of things. And he talks about how he's going to cut people in pieces if you don't do what I say. And you destroying my sheep. You're destroying my livestock. And then you're not even helping them and healing them and finding them. So therefore, I'm not going to find you. But guess what? So Mashah, servant of Yahuwah, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of Yahuwah. So do you want to die, he said, in your inheritance, or you want to die outside of your inheritance? And he buried him in the valley of the land of Moab, opposite Bath Peor. But no one knows the place of his burial to this day. He's like, man, you better leave that grave alone. Satan want that grave too now. Satan want that body so bad, he want to know where it's at. Just like you know how you say, we're going to do archaeology discovery, we're going to find, we're going to dig through the ground, we're going to go. We did an actual satellite image of it and dug down into the soil, and we think we found that actual grave where it's located. You think people don't, Satan want that body. You think Satan don't want that body? Satan want that body. It's a secret. Which means that if nobody knows it, which means the people who buried him during this time were very, very good at blocking their mind from Satan. They knew how to close their mind in certain compartments so Satan couldn't get in there to steal it. Because he want to know where it's at. He want to know everything about the Torah. Because it's made him prosper. Right? I need to know what you know. Please. So you need to be very skilled at keeping things out of your mind and keeping it weaponized. Because people don't need to know. But guess what? In Moab, opposite Peor, in the place of the burial, it says, and no one knows the place of the burial to this day. It says Mashah was 120 years old when he died. So you think he would have died at 120 if he would have did what Yahuwah said? No. Mashah would have been on the level of Noah. He probably would have been on the level, he probably would have been up there longer than that, right? But still, that's the whole point. Jubilees. He said, how many jubilees you want to live? Just obey Yahuwah's voice. That's all you got to do. He said, a wise son hears his father's instructions. That means he follows them to the T. Guess what? His eyes was undimmed, which means he ain't have no glaucoma. You know how that stuff? He ain't have none of that stuff. It was undimmed, and his vigor unabated. It was unabated, which means it was unabated, which means it didn't have no hostility, no threat, no negative. It didn't have no lesson. It didn't reduce. It didn't leave. Which means all the things, the actual functionalities of his whole body, his mind was there at 120 years old. And it says Mashah, it says that word for vigor is leech. You know how people say, you a leech. You need to change your language. Man, you a leech. Man, you a leech. No, you need to change what you say. You need to say, that word leech means moisture. I mean, his vigor, his freshness, his vigor. I mean, he was fresh. You know how you say it? You ever got a fresh, you never did a facial? And he said, man, I feel fresh. You ever washed your hair and everything just feels great? Cleaned your body? It was fresh. It means what? Freshness. It also means natural force. Right? It said his vigor, his natural force was not even abated. How you say moisture, freshness, right? It wasn't even abated. It was just his natural force. It didn't even leave. But you know why? You know why his natural force didn't leave? Because he was a good manager. You know, he'd be like, man, y'all stressing me out, you know. But see, Mashah was good for about 120 years on how to block people out his mind. And he knew, remember we read in Ecclesiastes, you don't really pay attention to what people say. But he eventually allowed those people to get in his head. And then what happened? He messed up. Because that's what happens. That's what happens. He messed up. And the people that did it, they need to realize you yourself have cursed others too. You gotta remember that. But he said his freshness didn't leave. Why is this important? So that word for unabated is nous. Nous. He said he leech nous. He said you a leech and you in the nous. You a leech and you in the nous. And your countenance is unabated. You know what they say? That's evil. You know how it's you know why it's dangerous? Let me show you why it's dangerous. Right? This is Yeshayahu chapter 55. This is why it's dangerous to say these things. You know how we say why is it important not to say these things? Right? Because it's important. Ignorance is a great evil. And when it comes to evil, then you be finding yourself and Yahuwah will be looking at you like, you really don't know what you're doing, right? You don't know how this is the book of Yeshayahu, chapter 55, I think it's 50, or actually 5. Yeshayahu chapter 5. Yeshayahu chapter 5 and verse 18. Woe to those who draw iniquity with cords of falsehood. And this is why you need to understand. Who draw sin as with cart ropes, right? What they hang you with? Who say, let him be quick. Let him speed his work that we may see it. Yeah, you better hurry up and get that thing done. Let the counsel of the Qahalath one of Ashy'ry draw near. Let his judgment. Why? Let it come that we may know it. He said, he said, you really want to know? He said, I really want to know. Can you get it together? Let's see if we can find out if you can get it together. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Man, that's evil. Leech nous. Who put darkness for light. Leech nous. That's evil. He said his countenance, his freshness, his vigor was not abated. Because he was a good manager. But he allowed some people to get in his mind. And then Yahuwah said, he was a good manager for about 120 years. And then you know what happened at 100? You're fired. You know how they say? You are fired. Right? You know how it is. It was a good run, man. But you didn't run well, but who hindered you from obeying the truth? Right? Because remember, Yahuwah spoke to him. Oh, them people, yeah, they did. Oh, man, they got me. Oh, those children got me. You know how it is in a household? Children driving me crazy. Who did hinder you from obeying the truth? It's just too much. Who hindered you from obeying the truth? Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. You know how they say? Sweet for bitter. Man, she's so sweet. But then bitterness. It look good, but it's really bitter. It looks sweet, but it's really bitter. But he said, woe unto you, right? So that word unabated is nous. Now he say it don't crack either. They'd be like, what you mean by that? That's what they mean by it. To flee. He says his freshness, his natural force did not escape. It didn't flee. It didn't what? Disappear. He was still in the same state. It means to what? It says to attack on horseback. Because you're still young. He said, you can't do it like that. I can still do it. Riders! Right? You can jump right on that thing, right? I can jump on a horse. Right? It didn't what? To drive hastily, right? It means to cause to disappear. It didn't disappear. It didn't vanish away. It didn't. To be abated, guess what it also means? To lift up a standard. You say, why do they put you up there? Because they lifting up a standard, and you just didn't know you was the standard, and you was the rope. And guess what? And you know what you say? It's evil. You say, so it ain't. It's not evil to be in a noose, no. Because the only thing they're doing, you need to understand, you were lifting up a standard. Because you are the standard. You always been the standard. They stole your land. You were the standard and the rulers of the world. You know what happened? It's called conquer. You're the standard, but then we're going to crack a joke and say you're not the standard. And say it's evil. But that's the whole point of it. It's a psychological warfare. How you say psychological warfare? Satan always does things opposite to twist your mind to think something of things that are not true. So therefore, when he does that, you believe it, and then you pass it to your children and your children's children, and you forget all about your inheritance. And then they forget who they are. And they forget who their father, grandparents, and great-great-grandfather was, and all the way back to Adam. Even from Abraham, we learn from Terah, all the way from Noach and Shem. They forget all about the knowledge and understanding, and then you find yourself not knowing who you are. Yeah, because you're a leech. Or you're a noose. You're a leech noose, right? But that's all a part of it. You say, so why we did all that, right? So this is the book of James, chapter 4, Jacob, chapter 4, and verse 1. Jacob, chapter 4, and verse 1. It says, what causes quarrels and fights among you? What causes quarrels and fights among the world and the rulers and the people of the world and the countries and the people and the nations and the races of people? What causes all these quarrels and fights among you? Is it not this that your passions are at war within you? That's the only reason. That's why you whole earth full of violence. That's why, because nobody listens to your whole voice. That's the only reason. It's at war within you. You got the gates of Sheol, hell inside of you, and then you got this nice and kind and loving person, right? But then the gates of Sheol just taking over and ruling and literally destroying everybody. You desire and do not have, so you murder. You start to kill people. Violence. Because you at war, the gates of Sheol have now taken over. You know how some people they'll do something wrong, and then they're killing somebody, and they be like, I didn't know. I don't know what I just did. Because when the gates of Sheol open on the inside of you, the gates of hell prevailed against you. And you be like, what just happened? Man, you be getting all these power, you float up in the air. Next thing you know, you come flying, you got superhuman ability, you go flip over the wall. Next thing you know, you turn back to a regular human being. You be like, how did I get back to this state? What just happened? Oh my gosh, what did I just do? Because you didn't have that gates of Sheol closed inside of you. It prevailed, right? You covet and cannot obtain. You know what people, that's the only reason people go in other people's land and take people's stuff, because they covetous. That's the only reason. You say you can't, so you fight and quarrel because you can't get it. So being that you asked for it the first time, and they wouldn't do anything for you, they wouldn't give it to you, what you asked for. So then you start fighting and quarreling to take it. That's inside of every human being on earth, no matter what color you are. But when they get into inside of the people who's supposed to be the standard, you get Yahuwah upset, right? You're supposed to be the standard, and then you start getting inside of you, then you get Yahuwah upset. And that's danger for the rest of the world. You say that's a danger for the rest of the world. When the standards gets to the point where they get overwhelmed and it gets you, then you start upsetting, then the whole world in danger. No, right? That's why it's important for the standard to always stay in the state to obey their father. Or you put everybody in danger. He's like, I'm upset, right? It says, you covet and can obtain. You fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. He said, that's the only reason you don't got it. But some people just go and take it. He said, why we don't got anything? Because you ain't asked for it. But guess what you did? But you do not receive because you asked wrong. This is another reason why we ain't got it. He said, why we ain't got it? Because we ain't asking wrong. Can we have back our inheritance? So how your behavior is. Why would I give you back inheritance, you beneficiaries, when your behavior don't even align with the behavior of the actual grantors and the trustees before? Makes no sense. Why would I give you the same inheritance that Adam had and you guys hate animals? You hate each other. You don't even know how to rule. You can't even discern between good and evil. How are you going to be able to do that? You're going to be saying leech noose and say it's evil. You can't even do it. You got to be able to discern between good and evil. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrong to spend it in your past. You're going to waste the whole inheritance. That's how we did. You're going to get the inheritance. You're going to start flossing, getting all these things, getting all these possessions, wasting money. I'm gonna get a green and yellow translucent something, right? You're gonna be just doing all types of stuff. No, don't even understand what it's like to even be in that situation. Right? You're not even a good manager. Why would he give you an inheritance or a beneficiary? You're not even a good manager. Right? And it says, you adulterous people. He's like, you had to be committing adultery. He said, ain't no way in the world. You have to be. That's the only reason we ain't got it. He said, why? Because we adulterous. That's why. He said, why we ain't got it? Because we adulterous people. We went outside of what he said. We didn't do what he said. So therefore, we're adulterous. And he's saying this after Yahushua died. So how you think he was writing this after Yahushua died, so you think it changed the day? You adulterous people. It's the same thing. That's why he said, as the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the son of Adam. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Therefore, as it says, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with Elohim? Do you not know that when you do things like the Goyim and how they do and they fight and they quarrel and they take and they do all these things, do you know that it's enmity with Elohim? Do you know you get Yahuwah upset? You see what he did in the beginning. Guess what? Therefore, whosoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of Elohim. So therefore, or do you suppose it is of no purpose that the scripture says he yearns jealousy over the Ruach that he have made to dwell in us? Right, skipping over to the last verse. Actually going to, yeah. You go to verse 13, 4 and 13. Come now, you who say today or tomorrow we will go in such town and spend a year there and trade and make profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. And what is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Why does it appear for a little time and vanishes? Because you don't listen to Yahuwah's voice. Matter of fact, you ain't listened to him, you broke the covenant, and then Adam sinned, right? So therefore, sin was brought on all flesh, got corrupted. But it says, instead, you ought to say, if Yahuwah's will, because Yahuwah, we don't know. If Yahuwah's will, he said, I'll get some money, I'll get some currency. If Yahuwah's will, he'll allow me to get out of this situation. If it's Yahuwah's will that he'll allow me to have children or be married or do all these things, you know, people wishing for. It's Yahuwah's will. If you go over there and you actually say something, that person will actually say something back to you, right? It's Yahuwah's will. If it ain't, you can't force Yahuwah's will on somebody, right? They're going to be like, Yahuwah's will ain't Yahuwah's will, right? You know, people be trying to force stuff. You'd be like, it ain't Yahuwah's will, right? You can't make something happen, right? Yet, you do not know what tomorrow will bring. And what is your life, right? Instead, you ought to say, if Yahuwah's will, we will live and do this or that. I have a 10-year plan, 5-year plan. See my 5-year plan? My 10-year, 5-year strategic plan. How many plans have one made that have not been fulfilled? A lot. Man, I made plans, man. It ain't happening. It wasn't Yahuwah's will. I guarantee you, anything you have, it's like, it's Yahuwah's will. Anything you in right now, it's Yahuwah's will. And when Yahuwah take things away from you, it's Yahuwah's will. They're like, man, why this happen? Yahuwah's will. It always keeps you out of trouble, right? In your mouth. Right? Because your tongue to say things, you be like, man, why did I say that? Because you just your own stuff. It's not Yahuwah's will. And it is you, but here's what it says. Instead, you ought to say, if Yahuwah's will, we will do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. That's one of the things Yahuwah hates. All such boasting is evil. Now you say every imagination and thought is evil. Now you see why the world is so big on what? What they're going to do next day, the year after that, how much money they're going to make, their projections of how much money they're going to make. Look at that. It's going to, the growth patterns will be 75, 150,000%. Right? That's all they think about. Guess what? And they say that's what it's going to be, right? It just all the way up, right? And that's all their mind thinks about. And guess what? You know what happens after that? You got the graphs and the charts and the circles and things, right? He said, well, how do I know this? Because I did all that before. That's how I know. I did all that. He did it with corporations, did it for myself, did it for projects. Matter of fact, I did it for actual term papers, right? Oh, that's a part of the whole thing. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, this is what you need to focus on. The right thing to do has nothing to do with it. It's not hard. Life shouldn't be that hard. When you start thinking about these other things that you start boasting your arrogance, then you're going to forget about. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him, it is sin. So is it the right thing to do to swindle somebody? No. Is it the right thing to do to extortion somebody? No. Is it the right thing to do to commit adultery? No. Is it the right thing to do to fornicate? No. Is it the right thing to do to lie? No, definitely no. Because you got to tell 55 more lies, actually 22 more lies, to get 144 lies. Then you go from 144 to 720. Then 720, then you might get, then the other people might die off, because then you go back to 360 lies, right? Then those 360 lies that did die off gonna go to Judgment Day, and then you're gonna have to give an account for the 360 lies that the other people believe. Then you go back to 360 today, you can be like, man, I got a whole another 360 lies you be giving an account for inside of other people that you sold. So then therefore it's better not to lie. Definitely don't spread it. That's even worse. Because then you're going to have other people occupied in a lie. And they're going to be thinking about, boasting about what they're going to do tomorrow and the next day, and they arrogance. Right? And then they're going to be evil. Right? These are all a part of it. That's the dangerous of it, right? We're going to that same book, your code, chapter 5. Your code, James chapter, I think it's chapter 3. James chapter 5 and verse 10. Because all this is a part of it. Actually, go to James chapter 3. Go to James chapter 3 and verse. James chapter 3 and verse 9. James chapter 3 and verse 9. It says, with it we bless our Yahuwah and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. He said, you curse them. We do Barak with our mouth. Barak, Shabbat, Shalom, Shalom. Right? You say all these things. But we curse people who are made in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. We do it with our tongue too. He said, don't pay attention to what people say. You may have to hear somebody curse you. Matter of fact, you remember when you opened your mouth and out came a curse? You remember that time? How long? I ain't never did that. Remember that? It was about 15 years ago, about 10 years ago, about 5 years ago. It was yesterday. It says, from the same mouth comes Barak, blessings and cursings. Right, so it says, my brothers and sisters, these things are not to be so. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and salt water? He said you shouldn't do it. Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, or a grapevine produce figs? Right? It's hybrid. Same thing when you read in Bereshit, every imagining thought, Makashabar Yetzer, imagination, and the whole earth is filled with Kamas. And guess what they're doing today? Making hybrids, man. They creating hybrid food. Matter of fact, hybrid trees. Soon hybrid trees, they're gonna probably come down and touch you on the arm, on your arm, and give you some fruit and hand it to you. And they're gonna be an apple tree, but they're gonna hand you an orange and a grape at the same time. They're gonna come out and gonna print on your hand, right? It's gonna be filled with all types of. You don't know what's gonna happen. The world is headed that way, right? So therefore, can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives? Yeah, today. Or a grapevine produce figs? Yeah, today. Neither can a salt pond yield fresh water. They try to figure out how you think they figured out they figured out. Actually, you can look this up. They trying to figure out how to turn salt water into fresh water. Turn it into energy, right? They can turn that into energy now. You can use it as buoys and channel energy, and then use that energy to power a city. You can do that. So how are you gonna live? Verse 13. Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in meekness of wisdom. But guess what? But if you have bitter and jealous and selfish ambitions in your heart, do not boast and be false against the truth. Don't you boast on tomorrow. If you got bitter and selfish ambitions, don't you boast in your arrogance about what you're going to do tomorrow. Don't do it. You're going to be false with the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes from above. Like he said, we're supposed to be born from above. If you then be risen with Yahushua Mashiach, seek those things which are over your head. But it's earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. Because that's the gates of Sheol inside of you. You know, I say the gates of Sheol is open inside of you, right? You say the gates of hell. For where jealousy and selfish ambitions exist inside of you, there will be disorder in every vile practice inside of you. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. That means the countenance is not abated. How you say this? Your countenance is not abated. You leech noose. You're a leech noose. Leech noose. You are the standard. Say you are the standard. Leech noose. That's what you are. But the wisdom from above is first peaceable. You a leech noose. Peaceable, leech noose. Gentle, leech noose. Open to reason. You a leech noose. Leech noose. Right? Impartial and sincere. You a leech noose. Your countenance is not abated. It's sown in peace by those who make peace. Shalom. Leech noose. You are the standard. That is the standard. That's the standard of Hakma. People say, why? That's what it is. That's what it is, right? Going to the book of, so getting out of there, going to, where are we going to go? Going to the book of Bereshit. Genesis chapter 30. Genesis chapter 33. Genesis chapter 33 and 1. Actually, go to 33 and 7. 33 and 7. And it says, Leah likewise and her children drew near and bowed down, and last, right? Who was the last one? Yusaph. And recall drew near. The last one was Yusaph. And they bowed down. He said they bowed down. And Asu said, what do you mean, by all this company that I met. And Yaakov answered, to find favor in the sight of my master. But Ashy'ry said, I have enough. My brother, keep what you have for yourself. What must we do to inherit eternal life? What did he say? If you have 2 tunics, give to someone who doesn't have, right? If you have more food, give to somebody who has no food. If you have more than enough, why are you taking more than what you need? Even Ashy'ry even know this. The man got 12 kids with a whole, why are you taking things from them? It makes no sense. Esau even knew it. Ashy'ry even knew it. He like, this don't make no sense. The math don't do right. I got plenty of stuff. The last thing I need is more stuff from you. But you know, today, more, souls, life, energy, manipulate your mind, take control. I'm gonna take down your whore, right? And then you start getting to that point. You say, even this Ashy'ry right here knew when to stop. The one, I'm talking about the one who knew how to stop, right? He knew it's like, okay, it's way too much stuff I got. I know that I don't need no more stuff. When you start to make your household big, and your life bigger, and your corporation's bigger, and you want to expand, you finna take more than what you need from other people. And you're most likely going to do something evil to get it. It's the same thing with Ahab and Isabel, right? They had plenty. And they had somebody next to them, they wanted to take their land, right? And they took it through false accusation. This world has not changed, right? You know how I say, it's changed. No, it hasn't. Don't think it, no, it didn't. Nope. Not one bit. Because the gates of Sheol is inside of everybody, and all you gotta do is write a letter, just like Dawid did. When the battle get hot, draw back. It's the same world, man. It's no different. What do you mean? All this company I met. Yaakov answered, to find favor in the sight of Yahuwah. But Ashy'ry said, I have enough, my brother. When you have your brother, he said, when your brother reacting poor, he said, man, you ain't supposed to be taking things out of interest and giving things out of interest, right? You ain't supposed to be doing these things. You're not supposed to be swindling each other. Yaakov, no, please, if I have found favor in your sight, then accept my present from my hand, my yacht, please. Right? For I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of Elohim. And you have accepted me. Please accept my barak, my blessings, that is brought to you. Out of the mouth goes blessings. Because Elohim has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. So he's like, I have enough. Ashy'ry like, I got enough. You notice how everybody got prospered. So if both people have enough, why are you not giving to the poor? Right? I'm sure some of these servants around probably need something, or maybe some other people that's around, maybe they need something. But why are you taking more? Thus he urged him. This is what you call good managers, right? Because if they both have enough, they're still, even though they both admitted they both have enough. They don't need no more stuff. But he says, thus he urged him, and he took it. He's like, okay, here you go. He kind of forced it on him, right? But he already said, I don't need it. Yaakov said, I have enough. So what is the most logical thing to do with it? Give it to somebody who doesn't have. You have more tunics. Give it to somebody who don't. you have more food. Give it to somebody who don't. Don't take money by threats or force, nor collect taxes more than what you need, that you are authorized to take. These people had more sense. Esau had more sense. Jacob was like, this is way too much. I have a little bit more self-control on what I need to do. Then Ashy'ry said, let us journey on our way, and I will go ahead of you. But Jacob said to him, my master knows that the children are frail, and that the nursing flock and the herds are a care to me. Amazingly, you see the same standard in Jacob's mind that Noach had. Because why would Yahuwah entrust Noach with all that stuff? Because Noach had a different mindset. If they are driven hard for one day, all the flocks will die. But you know what they do today? When they drive you over and over again, boy, get up, 6 of them, 8 of them, go, go, go. They kill your behind. They don't care. They got way more than enough. They kill your behind. They don't care. They don't care how many days off you get. None, right? 3 times a week. Come here. There, do this, right? Give me your money, right? Make you drive a car. Risk your life 3 times a week, right? Mess your head up, right? Screw you over. No information, no intellect. And guess what happens? Let my master pass on ahead of his servant. He didn't want nobody to die. Because he had care. Right? That's what you call a shepherd. That's what you call a shepherd. A nuku, a pastor, what you see right here. That's a true. I have way more than enough. Right? That's a good manager. Managers? Right? People say managers, yeah. Let my master pass on ahead of your servant, and I will lead on slowly, at the pace of the livestock that are ahead of me, and at the pace of the children. So that's what you call a good manager. I'm going at the pace of how the children walk. I'm not selfish. And I'm going at the pace on how the animals are walking ahead of me. I'm not selfish. Until my master is in Seir. So Esau said, let me leave with you some of my people who are with me. Let me help you out. But he said, what need is there? Let me find favor in your sight, my master. So Ashy'ry returned that day on his way to Seir, but Jacob journeyed to Sukkot and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place was called Sukkah. And that's all a part of it. But at the same time, what's all a part of it? Going to the book of Bereshit, chapter 38, Genesis chapter 38. Genesis chapter 38, verse 1. Actually going to 30, Genesis chapter 39. Genesis, Bereshit 39 and 1. Genesis 39 and 1. Now Yusaph had been brought down to Mizraim. And Pothiar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard of Mizraim, had bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. He brought him with money. And Yahuwah was with Yusaph, and he became a successful man. Successful. And he was in the house of the Egyptian master. His master saw that Yahuwah was with him, and that Yahuwah caused all that he did to succeed in his hands. He's like, man, put you on the job, man. You got like you about to make $500K, $200K, boy. You only been here 3 months. Man, you about to take over the whole company, right? Man, you get ready to be manager in about 2 days, right? You already good, man. Look at this thing. This thing is prospering. Cause you next to me. Cause you with me. Right? people say one person can't affect the whole team. I say, okay. Whatever you want to believe, right? One person can affect the whole team. One person can make a whole team win. You just say, no, that ain't happening. I said, okay. Okay, and one person can make a whole team lose too. One person's sin will make a whole team lose, especially if it's major, like Isabel. That thing was major, right? Make your whole thing go down, right? People say that's not possible. Yes, it is. And his master saw that Yahuwah was with him, and that Yahuwah caused all that he did to succeed in his hand. Anything he put in his hand, he's like, man, it's like everything he doing going, right? So Yusaph found favor in his sight, and attended him. And he made him overseer over his house, and put him in charge of all that he had. Made him a manager. Oh man, a good manager, right? You know, who just says, give me account of your management, right? Let me see what you did. How much? You wicked. He's like, you ain't even an honest manager. How much you owe? It's 20. Write 10. How much you owe? 50,000. Write 5,000. Right? Write 20,000. Right? You 80. Right? How? You ain't no good manager, are you? From the time that he made him overseer in his house and over all he had, the Yahuwah Barak, the Egyptian's house, for Yusaph's sake. He said, people don't even understand it. For his sake. He said, now you see why people try to keep you there. He said, why they want to keep your code? He said, why did Laban swindle him? He like, man, I got to keep you here. And if I get rid of you, it's over for me, right? All my revenue going down, right? That's how they know. The Barak of Yahuwah was on all that he had in the house and in the field. Oh, so in the house and in the field. My father is the field is the world, and my father is the farmer, the vine dresser, right? The field is the world, in the house and in the field. He says, so Yahuwah is like, what's going on with my management? I guess Yahuwah ain't with you, right? So we look at all that. So he left all he had in Yusuf's charge. And because of him, he had no concern about anything but the food he ate. Man, he said, I ain't got to worry about nothing. He laid back in the chair. He's like, that person there, he worked. When he get down and when he start working in the house and in the field, then I ain't got to worry about nothing. I already know I can trust this person. Why? Because if I trust this person, I know this person is going to do what's right. That's what you need to be focused on. Not what you're going to make tomorrow or the next day in your arrogance. If Yahuwah's will. Because Yahuwah was with Yusuf. You know what Yusuf was saying every day? If Yahuwah's will. If Yahuwah's will. If Yahuwah's will, I'll do this and that and get gain and make all this. If Yahuwah's will, every single day. And Yahuwah was with him. And anything he touched, he was like, being that you ain't really want, he said, this is what you get. And now Yusuf was a handsome in form and appearance. Why was he handsome in form? Because his countenance leech noose, right? Leech noose, right? His countenance wasn't abated because he was the standard. He was the standard. His leech noose. Why do you think Yasharal had? He said, why Yasharal had the most beautiful women? Leech noose. There's a reason why. Man, I ain't never seen so much beauty. Man, are you serious? Right? But that's all a part of it. But it says, and after a time, his master's wife cast her eyes on Yusuf and said, right? She done saw him, right? Right? She put an iron on him, right? She saw his eyes on him and she said, lie with me. She wanted to commit adultery. You adulterous people. You adulterous people. You adulterous people. But he refused. You know what happens when you don't get what you want? You quarrel and you fight. You want to take somebody down. False accusation, right? That's what happens when you don't get what you want. And said to his master's wife, then he said something back. What he said? Behold, because of me, my master has no concern about anything in his house. And he has put everything that he has in my charge. He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except you. He said, you the only person I don't rule over. Because he do. He the one rule over you. I don't rule over you. I'm not in charge of you. He the one rule over you. He said, you better remember who your husband is, woman. That's literally what he said to her face. In a very nice, wise way. But he just said, you better remember who your husband is, woman. Because you are his wife. He said, you better remember who you are. You better remember who your husband is, woman. And guess what? She was an Egyptian woman. You better remember who your husband is. So, and then, people in Ashy'ry say, that doesn't apply to me. It don't apply to me. Yeah, it do. It do apply to you. You better remember who your husband is and who rule over you. Because he said, I ain't the one who rule over you. And he said, you know what he said? And amazingly, that's what you call a good manager. Because the managers, the shepherds and all that, ain't supposed to be doing, I'm over everything, but I ain't over you though. So you need to go to your manager. Because I ain't over you though. And that's what people have done. The managers have not followed the example of Yusaph, the good manager. Yusaph is a very good manager. Very good. Right? How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against Elohim? This is why you need to make sure. How you say it? You gotta make sure. Right? This is how people get in trouble. Why? Because they be trying to act like they the ruler, an authoritative figure over somebody else that doesn't belong to them. And they are supposed to be a manager. And guess what? And he says, and as she spoke to, it says, sin against Elohim. He ain't gonna sin it. I said, you gonna sin, I'm gonna sin against Elohim. I ain't sinning against you or your husband. I'm just sinning against Elohim. I'm gonna die, right? I'm not trying to die. You see how much money, you see how this stuff prospering? I ain't trying to lose this stuff. And you will destroy the works of my hands, right? And as she spoke to Yusaph day after day, he would not listen to her. He said, man, he on the job, and the woman at the job just come at him, and she married. We the only ones in the room. It's the office closed. We the only ones in the room. You over here? You still in here? It's time to go. Right? People say, yeah, I'm still in here. No, you need to run out the door. They hear to go clink, clink. You know how the door go, right? You just hit the door. You need to be gone. You don't need to be in there. You the manager. You need to be gone, right? And lie beside. You know what he says? And as she spoke to Yusaph day after day, he would not listen to her and lie beside her or to be with her. He said, what are you doing? But one day when he went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was there in the house, she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand and fled and got out of the house. He was gone. Because sometimes you be a manager in the house, managers, and then you be in a managerial role, and then you'll have a certain individual that tries to get you to sin in your managerial role. And you have to get the blank out of there. It's really that simple. People say, run. Why? Run. You gotta run. I'm gonna rebuke you. You see Yusaph saying that? No, Yusaph ran. There's a reason why he ran, because it's a whole point. You gotta run. He said it's managerial one-on-one. Business management one-on-one. Run. Right? You know how I say business management one-on-one. Most people don't know about that. And as soon as she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and had fled out the house, she didn't get what she wanted. You know what that creates? Do not lie one to another. Seeing you have crucified the old self with its passions, because that's all she is in her passion, and put on a new self which is renewed in the image and likeness of its creator, or you end up cursing people in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. And guess what happens? She called to the men of her household and said to them, she starts spreading rumors, right? You know how you... See, he has brought among us a breed to laugh at us. Why? He came into me to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. I wonder where she get that from. Oh, so you telling me she didn't know the Torah? She trying to get Yusaph all that time, and you telling me she ain't never picked up the Torah, or she never went to go inquire why he won't do it? Because the Torah states, if a man forces you to lie with you, right? And if you don't scream, it's consensual, right? And if she had to scream out, he tried to touch me and lay with me. False accusation. And as soon as he heard that, I lifted up my voice and cried out. And he left his garment beside me, right? And fled and got out of the house. He got condemned with rape. That's what happens. Amazingly, this is what happens to the leech nooses today. Amazingly, this happens all the time. And they get caught up in the Mizraim woman, and next thing you know, you lose everything. Your job, your money, matter of fact, you're running for your life. Right? That's what happens. But then some of you actually did it. You got entangled, and then guess what happened? You lose everything. And that happens to you because you didn't know. When you're a manager, you need to run. Right? He said, that ain't no, you know what? You know what happens after this? And he fled and got out of the house. Then she laid up his garment by her until his master came home. So she literally plotted and literally waited. So imagine somebody just waiting. Like, I gotta wait. I already told the lie. Remember, you already told lies to all the other servants, right? So you gotta make sure the lie keep going. That lie gonna keep going. It gotta keep going. That's what's gonna happen to you. People say, why he told us not to lie one to another? Because this is what you're gonna be doing. I gotta tell another lie. I gotta tell another lie. And you know what happens after that? More judgment, more fines, more punishment. He said after Yahushua died, rose, and ascended. There's a reason why he said don't do it after. Then she laid up his garment by her up until his master came home. And she told him the same story, saying, the Ashy'ry servant whom he had brought among us came in to laugh at me. So she made sure she told two lies. But she didn't know those two lies also she told was 2 or 3 witnesses. So she knew she had to have 2 witnesses to hear her story in order to condemn him to what punishment he had to do. Because she had inquired of the Torah. She had to figure this thing out. Because remember, the only way, when somebody has an excellent ruach in them, like Daniel, the only way they're going to be able to find something on you is inside the Torah. That was the only way to find something on you. 2 or 3 witnesses, you had to scream out. It wasn't consensual. Either it was adultery anyway. He tried to rape me. I cried out. 2 or 3 witnesses, lie, condemned. That's the only way they're going to get you. When you're a good manager. When you're a really good manager, like him, you better watch your back. It says, and she told him the same story, and the Ashy'ry servant whom you have brought among us came in to laugh at me. But as soon as I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his garment beside me and fled out the house. Make sure she got both stories right. And as soon as his master heard the words that his wife spoke to him, because Yusaph already told him, he put me on everything and said, she was his, now he is her master now. But she got told that lie. But guess what? This is the way your servant treated me. His anger was kindled, right? He said, "You know how your servant treated me. He treated me with such, I've been treated wrong." And now You know how master of the house husband get, you did what? Right, that husband gonna be hot. Right, he gonna come after you, right? I'm paying this person, right? And he done came into my house, right, and did all this in my house. I'm paying this person. So what do you think that man like, I'm wasting money and he trying to do this? That's not a good day, right, for you. And Yusuf's master took him and put him into prison. So which one you think it was better? For him to be walking around or to be put in prison? Because remember, she already told lies to the other servants, which means those servants told other people too. That's about another 100, 200 people, 1,000 other people. And he was the best manager in all Mizraim. So you telling me nobody in Mizraim knew he was that's a whole Mizraim he done spread the rumor to. That's like another 2,000. Then he had probably another 200, right? Because the husband gonna tell other people this person. So he got to tell all his other master friends who rich, and then they gonna find about it. So that's another couple thousand. So what do you think is better, for him to be walking around chilling? Nah, it's better for him to get. It's better. That's the best place for you in that type of situation. In prison. You say it's better to be in prison with false accusation? Yeah. So you ain't got to hear none of the stuff that people say. You could be in silence. And you'll never hear the words and be tormented by all the things, and they'll never get in your mind. And they'll be cursing you. Because if they start cursing you, they'll get in your mind. You know what's going to happen to you? You're going to start cursing them. And then you know what happens after that? You're going to get demons. And then you can be tormented with demons in the prison. Right? Because you upset, and then you'll be going back and forth. Right? And it'll become even more of a death. So it better be thrown in prison. No communication, no nothing, and just be silence. And let everybody talk. It's better to do that. But Yahuwah was with Yusaph, right? So that's the only way Yahuwah gonna stay with you. I'm telling you, it's better to be in prison. So you ain't got to hear it. That's why the internet is so dangerous. You say, why? Because it allows you to hear everything people saying about you. It's like, man, I ain't even do nothing. He's like, man, this stuff get in your mind. You're gonna be like Mashah. You ain't gonna get in. You're going to miss your inheritance. It's a part of it. And people say, yeah, it's that deep. It go that hard. It's better to be in prison. Right? But Yahuwah was with Yusaph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. So Yahuwah touched the person's mind and he went inside his consciousness. And then he's like, man, you know that dude Yusaph in here, right? What do you mean? What Yusaph can do? How? What do you mean? What Yusaph? You know Yusaph in here. What do you mean? What Yusaph in here? For real? And the keeper of the prison put Yusaph in charge of all the prisoners who were in the prison. He's like, man, you telling me that manager in here, that real good manager in here? You talking about the one that when people everything he touched turned to gold? You know why the prisoner? You know why the head of the prison put him in there? He said, man, I ain't got to worry about nothing in this prison no more. He handling everything in the prison, right? You think, oh, I left one job, then you go to prison, you get a prison job. You be like, and then you get put over to people in the prison because you're a good manager. And people say, why does this? Guess what it says? Whatsoever was done there, he was the one who did it. And guess what it says? And the keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in the charge of Yusaph. It's the same thing. He was faithful. He did everything. He was faithful, right? He didn't commit no adultery, and everything prospered outside of prison. Then when he got into prison, the keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in Yusuf's charge. He was still doing the same thing in the prison. So we think it would better go into prison or not to go into prison. It was a good thing to go into prison. And then he didn't have to hear what everybody was saying either. And he continued on his managerial job. So it's like you got fired from one job by false accusation, and then you went to a whole nother job, and guess what? Yahuwah was with you, and you got a whole nother job in the prison, and guess what? Same position. So it didn't even matter. It looked like a demotion, but it was actually the same role, but it was just a little bit less pay. Actually, no pay. No pay at all, but still, it was the same job. Good manager. It don't matter what a manager at. You know how you say, we used to have this saying when I was growing up, you say, you fast. Whether you fast on on the concrete, no shoes, big shoes, boots. Right? It didn't matter if you were on the beach. It don't matter where you at. If you fast, right? It don't matter what you got on. A weight vest, right? It don't matter. But it says, because Yahuwah was with him. And whatever he did, Yahuwah made it succeed. If Yahuwah's will. If Yahuwah's will. And people say, wow, if Yahuwah's will. And that's the whole point of it, right? That's the whole point, right? There's a moral to the story, right? Going to the book of New Testament, what they call the New Testament. People don't even know what this means. People don't even know what this means. This Revelations. This is the book of Revelations. People say, wow. People think this is, he said, did you make this up? This is not that hard. This is Revelations Hazum 2 and 8. Revelations Hazum 2 and 8. Revelations Hazum 2 and 8. And the Malaka of the congregation, Adah, in Smyrna, right? The words of the first and the last who died and came to life. I know your tribulation and your poverty. When Yusaph, nice little area, right? He was rich, boy. He was prosperous, boy. He was broke off, boy. You couldn't tell him. When Yusaph had that, man, you can't tell, boy. I was prospering that thing. But then now you see he got brought to poverty by getting thrown into prison. Right? I know your tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. Yahuwah was with Yusaph. He was with him in poverty. And the slander of those who say they are Yahudim and are not. Wasn't that woman pretending to be a Yahudim? Oh, 2 witnesses screaming out, pretending to be a Yahudim. All the Mizraim people getting witnesses against him. And then he got condemned and thrown in prison. And the slander of those who say they are Yahudim and are not, but are a community, a people, a household of Satan. Why? Because they all joined in with her. And then guess what? They all believed it. He said, man, you are a household of Satan. Do not fear what you are about to suffer. What do you think happened to Yusuf? He said, Yahuwah was with him. Behold, Satan is about to throw some of you into prison. Oh, Yusuf was thrown into prison. So which one do you think was better? To hear the slander and all the things they were saying about him through all Mizraim and hear all the stuff they were saying about him? Or was it better just to be thrown into prison? How else you gonna get there? How you gonna get a good manager in the prison? You gonna have to lie. Satan, he said, well, he said, Satan come to steal, kill, and destroy. Matter of fact, you're your father, Satan. He was a liar from the beginning and the father of lies, right? Do not fear what you are about to suffer. Behold, Satan is about to throw some of you in prison, that you may be tested. What do you think Yusuf was being tested? In prison. For 10 days. What happened to Yusuf was in the prison? He was a good manager, man. He was so good at managerial skills. Man, he was like a corporate manager. He said managerial role, right? Man, he understood all problem-solving situations, right? That you may be tested for 10 days, you will have tribulation. Didn't he have that? That's what tribulation was for Yusuf, a good manager. That's what tribulation looks like. So the tribulation that one goes through, does it look like that? Does it look similar to something like that? Like Shoshana? Or like, that's tribulation. You say, I ain't never been through tribulation. But these are like tribulation type of situations. To the point where you're literally, oh man, I could die. Or man, I'll get thrown in prison for being a good manager. False accusation. That's what tribulation looks like. People lying on me for this long. How long it's been? and he was messed up by his brothers, right? But guess what? And he still had to be faithful to death. He said, so you telling me he had to be swindled, thrown in a ditch, get taken out, get falsely accused for rape, thrown in prison, get put as a manager in prison, and he still had to be faithful to Yahuwah himself. That you may be tested, in 10 days you will have tribulation. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. He had to be faithful in prison. He said, man, that prison guard, man, he had to worry about nothing. Man, he had the food, the raggedy food he had to eat, all the stuff he was doing. He had to do all that stuff in the prison. He had to do everything you've seen in the prison. He had to make sure everybody was taken care of, make sure people were getting the things that they need on a daily basis. He said, and I'll give you a crown of life. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Ruach says to the congregation. He said, what? The Ruach. If you got an ear to hear this. Both male and females, the Karnakaba. The one who conquers will not be hurt by the second death. Oh man, how this gonna go? How this go? Right, so this is the book of back to Bereshit, Genesis. Bereshit, Genesis. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 39, and go to verse 40 and 1. Sometime after this, the cupbearer of the king of Mizraim and his baker committed an offense against the master, the king of Mizraim. And Pharaoh was angry with them and the two officers and the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. What happened? In the captain of the guard in the prison where Yusaph was confined. So here go two other transgressors getting thrown in there with a good manager in the prison. You transgressors, you got me upset. You get a great offense. That's why Yahushua said, he said, you're going to be going into prison, you ain't going to get out till you paid every last penny. Right? Guess who's going to be in the prison? Nice little good manager for you. Right? Nice little good manager, right? And the captain of the guard appointed Yusaph to be with them and attended to them. Of course he's going to do that. He's like, man, look at here. Yusaph, man, I already know what you do. Just do what you do. They continued for some time in custody. And one night they both dreamed, and the cupbearer and the baker and the king of Mizraim, who were confined in the prison, each his own dream, and each dream with his own interpretation. When Yusaph came to them in the morning, he saw that they were troubled. So he asked Pharaoh officers who were with him in custody in his master's house, why are you faces downcast today? Why hasn't your countenance lost its abatement? You know how he says, leech news, right? You ain't leech news. What's going on? You ain't got your countenance done left. They said to him, we have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them. He said, ain't nobody to interpret because your countenance ain't like this person's countenance in this prison. That's the whole point. Do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Please tell them to me. Your countenance ain't like this countenance of this each is this prison. So the chief cupbearer told his dream to Yusaph and said to him, in my dream there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, it blossomed, shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in his hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. Then Yusaph said to him, this is the interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days, right? Man, you only here for 3 days. You good. Amazingly. How long Yahushua was in the grave? 3 days. 3 days. And amazingly, there was little Yusaph in prison, right? Little Yusaph say, man, you ain't going to be in here that long. You only going to be in here for 3 days. He said, be faithful unto death, and Yahuwah will give you a crown of life, huh? And guess what? And in 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up his head and restore you to your office. Oh, that's why Yahushua got up on 3 days. But guess who was in the prison? Little old Yusaph, right? And guess what? Only remember me. Now you see why Yahushua got up on 3 days. Man, Yahushua, what do you think Yusaph was in there like? You seen Yahushua come down there? He like. When Yahushua came down there in the prison, right, down in where he was at, he was like, man, remember me, Yahushua, remember me. Yahushua spent 3 days with Yusaph in there. He like, hey, man, remember me, man, when I was in that prison and I helped that cupbearer, remember that time? He's like, yeah, I remember. I gave you that word, gave it to him, right? But you gave what was mine and you gave it to him. Right? He said, you was a good manager. You know what you're going to get? I'm going to get you out of here, man. I'm going to get you out of here. That's what happens, right? And when this cupbearer, only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. Oh. He said, please get me out of this prison I'm in. And guess what he said? For I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Ashy'ry. I mean, I was stolen. Isn't that what we are? They stole our stuff, right? How you gonna get out? You gotta be a good manager. You gotta be faithful unto death. And here also I have done nothing that they should put me in the pit. He said, I ain't do nothing wrong. Why do you think they threw Yahushua in the pit? 3 days, 3 nights, because he ain't do nothing wrong. But they had to falsely accuse him like that woman did for Yusaph and throw him in the pit. But the only reason they had to throw him in the pit, that's real tribulation. People say, ain't no shit, that's real tribulation. Right? People have no idea. And when the chief baker saw that the interpretation was faithful, he's like, man, this person down here faithful unto death. Like he gonna get man, he faithful down here with Yahuwah. He said to Yusaph, I also had a dream. He like, man, this dude is faithful. Sometimes you don't want your dream interpreted. Sometimes you don't need to know your dream. He said, I need to know the interpretation of my dream. Sometimes you don't need to know. I also had a dream where there are cake baskets on my head. And in the uttermost basket, there was all sorts of baked food for Pharaoh. But the birds were eating it out of the basket on my head. And Yusuf answered and said, this is the interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. And in 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you on a tree. So you know why he gonna do that? Who they hang in the tree? Leech, noose. Leech, noose. Leech, noose. Because you've always been the standard. Notice all this takes place in prison. Some people get out and become servants. Some people leech noose and you're still the standard. And then some people get a crown of life. Everybody's time in prison ain't gonna be the same. That's why he tell you to be faithful unto death. You get a crown of life. And Yusuf answered and said, this is the interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you on a tree. And the birds will eat the flesh from you. People say, man, what is this? What kind of message is this? This is why Yahushua told you, he said, be not afraid what man can do. He can kill the body, he can't kill the Nefesh, right? Because Nefesh know him very well. He said, I know everything, right? And on the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, it was Pharaoh's birthday. What happened on the 3rd day? That was Yahushua's birthday, man. He got back up. He was born again. He said, man, you done came up from the grave. What? It was his birthday. He had a feast for all his servants and lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the head of the chief baker among his servants. Right? He lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the head of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief cupbearer to his position. And he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker as Yusuf had interpreted to them. These are all just servants. One was a servant to give drinks and wine. The other one was just a baker of bread and cakes. But they all servants though. Yusaph was a servant, manager. He was a servant. Everybody was servants. But everybody's servants. Everybody didn't get after Yahushua rose and ascended. Everybody didn't get what everybody else wanted. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Yusaph, but forgot him. He's like, man. He said he forgot about him. We almost finished with this. After 2 whole years, so Yahuwah left him in there 2 whole years after that. He said, remember me. So sometimes you be saying, Yahuwah, remember me, but sometimes it'll take 2 years. Now, he was a manager. He had to be faithful unto death. You get a crown of life, but sometimes you stay in there just so Yahuwah can get you in a certain time sequence. Because remember, everything you know, Yahuwah, your timing, it's just the fact that I got to get you on a timeline that's sufficient for you to do something for me. It says, and Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile. And behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump. They fed on reed grass. And behold, 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came up out of the Nile after them, and stood by the other of the cows of the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, thin cows ate the 7 attractive, plump cows. And Pharaoh awoke and he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing one stalk. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears, thin, blighted, and by the east wind. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plumps, full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. It was a dream. So in the morning, his ruach was troubled, and he sent and called all the magicians, Mizraim, and all its wise men. Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, the only reason the chief cupbearer remembered Yusaph, because he was faithful unto death. So the only thing he remembered was that Yahuwah was with him and that Yahuwah gave him interpretation of the dream. The only way people are going to remember you is you got to acknowledge Yahushua before men. You got to acknowledge Yahuwah before men. That's the only way people are going to remember you. If they don't remember Yahuwah, they ain't going to remember you. He's like, no, I don't remember nothing you said. You don't remember Yahushua Mashiach, they be like, that person, I remember this person, he said, he was talking about this Elohim named Yahuwah, and I know the Savior named Yahushua, and he said some interpretation to me. I remember. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servant, and he put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain guard, we dreamed on the same night. And he and I each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Ashy'ry was there with us, a servant of the captain guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And he interpreted to us, so it came about, and I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged. Right? Then Pharaoh called Yusaph, and they quickly brought him out to the other pit. That's how you know when things really you're getting ready to go down, you're gonna quickly do it. It's gonna be so fast you ain't gonna know what happened. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said to Yusaph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one that can interpret it. And I have heard it and said of you, what you hear a dream, you can interpret it. And Yusaph answered Pharaoh, it is not in me. Elohim will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Then Pharaoh said to Yusaph, behold, in my dream I was standing by the bank, right? We're going over verse 25. And then Yusaph said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh are one. Elohim has revealed to Pharaoh what he's about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. And the dream are one. And the 7 lean and the ugly cows that came up after they are 7 years. And the 7 empty bars blighted by the east wind are 7 years of famine. And you say, why? When crops are yielding diseases, that is called a famine. Just because things grow, don't mean if it got a disease on it, believe me, it's a famine because you can't eat it. And it says, and it is as told to Pharaoh. Elohim has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great and plenty throughout all the land of Mizraim. But after them, there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Mizraim. If Yahuwah's will, we will do this and that, and we will get abundance and gain. If Yahuwah's will. He said, such boasting is arrogant, right? You be thinking like 1 year, good year, it's going to always be like that. He said, no. The famine will consume the land, and the plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that Elohim, things is fixed by Elohim. So how many dreams you done had and you done seen it two times? As a matter of fact, you've seen it between two other people. Yeah, I had a dream like that. I had a dream like that. I had a dream like that. And what do you think getting ready to happen? He done doubled the dream, tripled the dream. You be like, he's surely getting ready to do this. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select discerning and wise men and set him over the land of Mizraim. Oh. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land. Let him put some managers up, right? Some good managers. Let's see what happens. And the Egyptian and the Mizraim during these 7 years plentiful. And let them gather all the food for the good years that are coming, and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh for the food in the cities. And let them keep it, good managers. Why you need to keep it? That the food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine. That's why you need to be good managers in your inward man. That all that are to occur in the land of Mizraim, so that the land may not perish through the famine, that you may not perish in the famine. That's why you need to be faithful unto death. That's why you need to store it up inside of you. And you need to store it up 7 good years. Right? Almost finished. Then this proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find a man like this in whom the Ruach of Elohim? Then Pharaoh said to Yusaph, since Elohim has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. Man, ain't nobody like you. Woo! Because that's what every single master that he ever had said. Be faithful unto that. Now he had a good job, he was prospering. Then he had the prison guard job, he was prospering. Then he got taken out of prison, and guess what? He just interviewed for another job. That's what that whole interpretation thing was. Ask you a question, you give an answer back. Since you answered that right, man, you're a real good manager. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Be faithful unto death, and Yahuwah will give you a crown of life. Only as regards to the throne will I be greater than you. Yahuwah will give you a crown of life. And Pharaoh said to Yusaph, I set you over all the land of Mizraim. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Yusuf's hand, and clothed him in a garment of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck, and he made him ride in the second chariot. He said, you won't be hurt by the second death. You won't be hurt by the second death. What does the second death look like? You won't be hurt by the second death. You'd be faithful unto death. He give you a crown of life. And they called out before him, bow the knee. Thus he set him over all the land of Mizraim. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Yusaph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent, no one shall lift up a hand or foot. That means your yard and your regal in all the land of Mizraim. And Pharaoh called Yusaph named Zaphon Nanpeniah, and gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Pastethera, priest of On. So Yusaph went over went over the land of Mizraim, right? All that's important, right? So the yod is open right hand, right? To throw attainment this 10th month, hand, right? Give, receive. But he did that with his mouth. It means hard work. Yusaph was a hard worker. Matter of fact, he was a good manager over all Yahuwah's house, all the master's house, then over the prison. Now he over all Pharaoh's house. It means border, hand, measure, portion, arm, manhood, male sex organ, or power. He was put power over all Mizraim. All because he was faithful unto death. So you think about your life and you say, all you gotta do is be faithful unto death and keep your powers. You need your powers, man. You need to stay connected. And you need to be able to block things from your heart and your mind, because if you don't, it's going to affect your powers, right? So this is Sirach 3:17-23. My son and daughter, go on thy business in Anu, meekness, and thou shalt be beloved of him that is approved. Why? Because Yahuwah going to be with you, even in prison. Even in the most toughest part of your life, where you at the bottom. He's like, man, I went from a $10,000, $1,000, a whole bunch of money to a little bit of money, back to a whole bunch of money, right? Same thing. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Why? Why do you think he humbled himself in prison? Who gonna humble himself and say, I'm gonna be over people in prison? Many are in high places of renown. Oh, when Yusaph when Pharaoh and all the people and master of the house and high places of renown, right? But mysteries are revealed unto the Anu. The interpretation is revealed unto the meek. Why do you think Yusaph was that way? For the power of Yahuwah is great and honor with the lowly. Why do you think, man, since there is no other person like you ever, no other Elohim like you, right? I'll put you over everything, right? Seek not out things that are too hard for thee. He said, don't even do it. Neither search for things that are above thy strength. That woman was way above Yusuf's strength. He like, man, I ain't trying to be with you. I ain't trying to be man, you gonna take me down, right? That thing whipped. That man was out of there. He ran so fast because that's above his strength. People think that. I said, you think you strong? Yeah, right. Yusuf had to run. And he was second in command. You ever been second in command of the whole country? Had he done it, he would have never got second command in the whole country. It would have never happened. Had he done it, man, he would have been death. That man knew the Torah, Yahuwah, righteous decree, man. They already knew that. He like, man, I'm finna die. You finna try to get me killed, right? But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. It ain't need for me to see that. He wasn't need for you to see that woman naked in that room. He like, man, ain't need. And for me to be here alone with you at all. Nothing is secret. I gotta get up out of here, right? But be not curious in unnecessary matters. For more things are showed unto thee than men and women and children and Malachi and Pharaoh. And magicians and sorcerers understand. And the cupbearer and the baker. So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the true light of life. Look at the one who rose on the third day. Not only to reveal and give us eternal life, but also reveal things about his life and his understanding in the Torah. Knowing that he was the standard. He was that man that was leech noose, that was lifted up above the people in the tree. He said, curses every man who hangs in the tree. But Yahushua said, my Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? But not even knowing that he never did. And even though he said, my Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? He know that Yahuwah never left him at all. For all these things were a part of his life. And the understanding of Yahushua Mashiach is eternal life. And to understand how to live and to coincide with him as one is eternal life. And to walk even as he walked. Who did no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. Neither did he charge Yahuwah foolishly. For Yahuwah gives and Yahuwah takes away. For Yahuwah gives and Yahuwah takes away. If it be Yahuwah's will in your life. For you, all the things that you attain in this life, if Yahuwah takes it away, it's Yahuwah's will. And if he gives anything back to you, it's Yahuwah's will. It has nothing to do with anything that you do. It's all about you staying connected to him in all the situations in your life. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward being. We look at that inward connection. We say when you palau, when you pray, when you tafila, you tahila within yourself, We know in the innermost parts of ourselves there's a mercy seat, and there's one who sits above the mercy seat. And he will be with you always, even unto the end of the world. All you got to do is go and find him. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be open. And you got to go deep within yourself and you got to find it. And you got to find it and you got to hold on to it. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The Anu shall inherit the Arats.